Welcome to this edition of SFG Top Performance. Today it's a feed and grain podcast. With me is Scott Goetz from our Milo office, Kent Watson from the Albia office. They'll discuss feed. They also have a special guest, which Kent will introduce as we get to the feed division talk. Real quick in the grains in the last couple weeks since we last talked, volatility continues to be the name of the game. We've had more of that in the last 6-8 months than we've seen for years probably. And last Thursday is a perfect example of that. We probably had a record down day in the grain markets, and along with the equities and the cattle and hogs, everything was down tremendously. Beans were down over $1, corn was down to 45-cent limit. And the way beans traded expanded limits, it even surprised me. I didn't realize that if one of the soy products trades limit down, and bean oil had on Wednesday, that opens up expanded limits on the whole bean spectrum, whole soy spectrum. So that's why beans were allowed to trade past the dollar limit that day. Friday we got a little bit of that back, actually half or better of that back, and we've kind of stabilized since then. In the meantime, processors have rolled to the SEP on corn and the August on bean contracts. As normal, they tried to keep 20 plus cents when they done that. So far, they've been successful. We'll see what happens as we get into July and these stocks become a little tighter, whether they'll be able to hold that difference in basis. Weather continues to move the market. We've had some cooler, wetter weather in parts of the Midwest, particularly from here east, and that has stabilized things to where some of the speculators have decided to bail out more or less and take their money and go home for the time being. Meanwhile, a lot of the west and plain states continue to be dry and battling hot weather. And that starts in western and northern Iowa and goes on farther west. So it's still a large area. Everybody's gearing up for the USDA stocks and acreage reports that'll be out on June 30th. That's probably going to be one of the top 3 reports this year. It always sparks a lot of interest, especially the acreage report. This year it's going to be a bigger deal than normal. If you look back or think back to March when they released their anticipated planting numbers, we kind of all knew that they were lacking. They were leaving acres out somewhere, and so we expect them to throw them back. Private forecasters in the last 2 weeks have thrown out a wide range of numbers. Some even saying the bean number might come in below what they had earlier, but that's a small, very small minority. Right now, the average trade guess on corn acres is 93.8. That would be up 2.6 million from the March report, so a lot of acres of corn. The average bean guess is 89.1 million acres, which would be up 1.5. Meanwhile, wheat is expected to lose about 400,000 acres. So a lot of acres came from somewhere other than another crop, of the top 3. And it's yet to be seen where that is. Probably not a lot of prevent plant other than the Dakotas, where the drought has been so severe, there's areas that may not have been planted. With that, the USDA drought map this week showed that 41% of the corn acres and 36% of the bean acres are experiencing moderate to intense drought. So that's still a large number. And we're at a point in our stocks right now that we need trend line yields or better, even at these acres, to maintain our carryouts. If we have any kind of hiccup in the next 6 weeks that could affect the yield, it could be a big effect on the prices. So guys are kind of disappointed. We've seen this pullback. We've lost $1.50 in the beans in the new crop and probably 75 cents or 80 on the corn. Still good profitable prices to lock in. Still a chance that we could go higher as we go forward. But in the back of your mind, don't forget we can always go lower too. So keep that in mind. We'll move over to the feed division. I'll turn it over to Kent, and he'll introduce our guest, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Mark. Today we were lucky to have Ed Pilch with Hubbard Feeds with us today, and over the last few podcasts, Scott and I have been talking about numerous subjects and topics, and I thought it would be a good idea maybe to bring Ed in. He covers a little more ground, giving a more perspective of what he's seeing out there, and things that maybe we should be looking at for nutrition-wise. One of the things I've been hearing a lot, and I think Scott has too, is these guys with prices the way they are, they might be doing a lot of early weaning this year. And so with that, I don't know, Ed, what should they be doing if that's what they're planning on doing?
Well, thanks, Ken. If they're planning on early weaning, it really is important that we introduce these calves to feed. They really need to know how to eat before we want them to, all of a sudden, be weaned and no mother's milk, and, getting them on creep feed or a grinding mix or anything at all to get them started will help when we get them into the lot and separated from their mothers. Another thing that need to look at is, because we're changing the way that they're getting feed, we're going to a bunk, we're going to a different watering system. There's a lot of stress, and younger calves have more stress obviously than older calves, especially if they haven't been eating much or haven't been started on feed yet. So another thing to look at is some kind of a stress program, and that could be a tub, a brigade type tub. It could be like a stress guard in the feed. And then one thing you're going to want to probably have in place, or at least discuss with your veterinarian, is a VFD, that if the calves do get sick, that you've got something in place that you can go in and treat those calves. To back up from there, right now we're in breeding season. We're right in the heart of breeding season. Bulls were turned out the last 30 days. If you're recording breedings, this is the time that you need to go out and observe the cows, observe the bull, make sure that he's still able to do his job. Anaplasmosis this time of year usually is a problem. Flies are a problem. If you haven't had a fly control program in place yet, I think you've already discussed it in other podcasts, IGR, Raybon, Clarifly, and then the newest one on the market is garlic. But if you are doing a fly control program, you really need to look at more than one method, especially this late in the season if you haven't been doing a fly control. So, the garlic in a spray or IGR in a spray. And you don't have to spray every day. You're going to get the cows up, you're going to observe them, and then you're going to spray them. And, those are the things you need to look at. Anaplasmosis, because of the stress of the heat, this is typically when we see a problem with anaplasmosis. So, and then, obviously we don't have the claim like we used to on foot rot and pink eye with CTC, but if you can get a VFD for anaplasmosis, you will see some benefit from the CTC on foot rot and pink eye. So.
Also, I've been seeing a lot of cattle. With the rains now we're getting, the grass is now coming back again, real good, strong, and you're seeing a lot of cattle in the ponds. Obviously it's hotter temperatures, but I think a lot of that has to do with fescue, endophyte problems. So, what's some things that maybe they need to be doing to help alleviate that kind of thing, Ed?
Again, that goes back to, the VFD thing. Years ago, and I've been in the feed business a long time, we used to feed CTC as a preventative at a low level for fescue. Well, we don't have that option anymore. So our company has a product called Fescue Max, which is an endophyte binder. We've all been in the trap for many years. I guess it's a trap if you want to look at it that way, that we're always treating the symptoms. We used to use the CTC, and then we had some products that had seaweed in them called Tasco. We had high vitamin levels. We were always treating the problem. We weren't taking care of the problem before it was a problem. And what this product does, it's a yeast-based product, and it binds to the endophyte, and it passes through the animal before it causes a problem with the animal getting overheated, so they're standing in the ponds. Because what happens is it's a vasodilator, or that's what we were trying to do before. And fescue, what it does is constricts the blood flow from the extremities. And that's why you see cows in ponds, and that's why you'll see them lose their tail switches and things like that, because there's no blood flow to those extremities. So I guess our product of choice would be like a Fescue Max, or any of our fescue products has that FEB 200. It's called Fescue Endophyte Binder 200 in any fescue product that we sell.
Well, like I said, it's trying to get ahead of the problem before it happens instead of waiting until it does. So, is there anything else that you know right now that you would think that we should be observing or taking care of?
Right now, make sure that you have the creep feeders in the right positions where the cows are loafing. You have the mineral out there. Mineral only works as if they're eating it, and they need to be in the loafing areas. Water obviously is a big issue right now, or can be a big issue. Water consumption to keep them cool, and just basic, environmental things. If you are feeding Crystalix tubs or feeding a low moisture tub, they need to be put in the shade. Those are susceptible to heat, and they will soften up quicker than what they're designed to do if they're out in 95-degree temperatures and 90% humidity. Rain does not bother them. I mean, it can rain on there, they'll drink the water off, but humidity and heat will soften up the tub quicker.
Okay. Well, thanks, Ed. I appreciate you being here.
You're welcome.
Scott, I guess you have something you want to...
Yeah, I just wanted to touch a little bit on pink eye today. I've had a couple producers in. Sounds like pink eye's getting kind of bad up in the Milo area. Sounds like it might be a long summer of treating pink eye. So pretty much the only thing you can do for preventions on pink eye is you can trim your pastures, seed heads, and the seeds get in their eyes, and that'll help contribute to the pink eye. Fly control, like Ed said, at least 2 types of fly control. The more controls you can use, the better your control's going to be. Try to keep them in fresh grass, keep them out of the dust. If you get these pastures ate down, they'll get a little dusty. If you've already got pink eye and you're needing to vaccinate, remember that I got darts in Milo, and that's a lot easier than getting the whole herd in this heat and stressing everybody. You can go out in the pasture and you shoot 3 or 4 that need treated, and do that in the evening when it's nice out, and everybody will be happy. And that's about all I had for you today, Mark. So.
Okay, well, thanks, guys. Some very good information that you shared with us, and timely. Kent, you're right. We're all looking to make a little more money, and you got to do things out of the ordinary once in a while to do that. In closing, I wanted to give a quick story. Agriculture is a great industry, and we've got great people. Last weekend, Rhonda and I camped up at Bellevue State Park, and unbeknownst to us, they have one heck of a rodeo in that area, the Jackson County Pro Rodeo, that goes on for 3 nights every year, and we attended last Saturday night. Probably 3,000 plus people there, and what really impressed me, the gal rides into the ring with an American flag, and the announcer did not have to tell people to stand and remove their hats. Everybody did, and I didn't see a single soul kneeling. That made me feel pretty proud to be an American and to be an Iowan both. So hats off to everybody in that area and the great patriotism that was showed that night. Otherwise, that wraps it up. I want to remind you to visit sfgiowa.com, our website. We post daily markets for all 7 of our grain locations. We have updates for the feed, grain, and agronomy departments each week. And so there's a lot of information to be gained from the website. Otherwise, we'll see you here in a couple weeks. Thank you.